Pod. Pod.
How's it going? So how's your podcast doing?
Yeah,
Have
it's
you been
going
doing
alright
this for a while or what?
It's literally like had the idea for it about a year ago, but only really started it during the pandemic.
Right on.
But yeah, I've been interviewing bands from that noughties period, but kind of wanted to extend it out a bit and just a bit of an excuse to talk to bands that I'm listening to at the minute.
Yeah,
like some bonus
it's a pretty niche topic for a podcast. If you were only going to interview bands from that era, you probably, well, maybe you wouldn't run out that quick, but I see your point is why you would want to have other bands as well.
Yeah, and just make it a bit more, just mix it up a little bit as well. Might get a bit boring otherwise.
Yeah. Hey, so how old are you? Were you coming of age around that time, or what's the story with that particular era?
Yeah, so I'm 32 now. So
Oh, okay, so we're the same age.
Oh, really? Okay. I did think you guys were a bit older than, your average new band, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't usually do like formal introductions, but it might help in this situation. So yeah, just say your name and like what you do in the band.
Sure, I'm Jeremy and I sing and I play guitar.
Yeah, and
the band name is Kiwi Jr. also. Maybe I should
get
let's try it one more time. Hello, my name is Jeremy and I sing and play guitar in Kiwi Jr.
And my name is Brohan Moore, and I also play in Kiwi Jr., but I play the drums.
But yeah, I was telling to Jeremy, like the original premise of the podcast was to talk to bands from that noughties period. But just wanted to do a few like bonus episodes with like just an excuse to talk to bands that I've been listening to. And I was listening to you guys earlier this year because I don't know if you're aware, but one of you, Give Me More, your song Give Me More, was on a program called Soccer AM over here. And that's where I first heard the single. I don't know if you know anything about that.
You're kidding. What is it called?
Soccer AM. It's about, it's obviously about UK soccer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do like highlights of the best goals of that week. And they pick a song every week and they picked your guy's song. And that's where I first heard you. And then, yeah, obviously went up to Spotify and stuff. But yeah. Been enjoying
That's cool.
music since then.
It's funny they didn't play the song Football Money.
Yeah. I guess a useful place to start would be just to give us an idea about your background in music and how you went from starting the band to eventually releasing Football Money.
Well, I can just say that we're from Toronto, Canada, and we started playing music together, the four of us, probably around 2006, 2007, and started recording the album pretty quickly after forming, and then it finally came out in 2009 in Canada, but then it just got re-released on a kind of a bigger scale just this past January, I think, is when it was. It January or anyway, this past year in 2020 it came out in the UK and the US, and just got a bit of a bigger push behind it. So yeah, it's a pretty new album, despite the fact that we kind of started recording it in like 2016 or 17. And then we just put out a new single last week for a record that's going to be coming out next year.
Yeah, because you played a few shows in the UK, and that's right. Was it earlier this year? Or was it back end of last year?
No, it was this year. It was in January or February of this year. We did just a short UK run. We did Leeds, London, Manchester, Bristol, I think.
Right.
Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm in Manchester because I was going to say I was messaging because you were supporting someone, weren't you, in Manchester? You were like playing before someone else, basically.
I'm trying to remember the name of that band. They're pretty good. Do you remember the name of that group? They were wearing gold suits. Brown, do you remember who that was?
Yeah, no, I don't. I was trying to remember. Those dates kind of blur a bit for me, but yeah.
Yeah, all those pints of bitter.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, did you enjoy that time in the UK?
I think we had a great time. It was super short and it was super fun. And like I said, we were excited to go back in May. We had a tour planned, and we were going to go to, I think we were going to go to Dublin and Glasgow as well. And I was really disappointed we couldn't go. But we had all those shows we played in the UK were great, though. And it was surprising to us, like, people knew our music, and there were people who had, bought tickets in advance and stuff, which was pretty wild for us because we don't even get that many people in our hometown coming to see us, to be honest. All of those soccer AM fans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where's that based out of? Is that London? What is that on, like, Sky Sports?
Yeah, it is like, Sky Sports.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
I have a decent knowledge of UK TV. Every time I would have guessed Sky, or I don't know, what else is there? Channel 4, Channel 5.
Yeah. Get BBC, ITV.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Sky Sports, I mean, I imagine Soccer AM must get millions of viewers, so it's a good place to get featured for sure.
That's cool. Our bass player used to live in London for a while, and he's a big soccer guy. And he had a tryout with, oh my God. I asked him to come on this podcast, and he had something else on, but he could tell you what team he had a tryout for. It was like tier 3 or something. It was like pretty high up.
Really? Yeah, that's great. I wonder what position he was.
He's fullback.
All right. Is he Canadian or is he English?
Yeah, he's Canadian, yeah.
You mentioned that you were around my age, like 32. Is that the same for everyone in the band?
Yeah, we're all like early 30s.
Okay. So I guess...
I'm actually 31. I turned 32 in a few months, but just to make you feel better, I said we were the same age.
Cheers, yeah. So yeah, I guess as we talked about briefly, like, did you have a big influence from that naughty scene, or like how much of a role has that played in your music as a band?
I mean, we were all fans of all of those groups at the time. I know that we talk about the Libertines a lot still. Do they qualify as that in that same period?
Yeah, definitely one of the main bands in the UK for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're a reference point for us. Were they like huge in the UK? I don't know any. It's hard to know like which bands were massive. Like I remember when I was like in high school or whenever this stuff came out, having like Maximo Park songs on my iPod, and like I don't know if they were like a big band over there, but like no one would have heard of them over here. Things like that.
Everyone always says like it was the Strokes who started everything, and then the Libertines kind of got labelled as the UK Strokes, so they kind of started the scene over here, and then it all became like pretty massive after that. And I guess we had Luke Jenner on from The Rapture, and he was talking about how a lot of bands from the US make it in the UK before Canada or America. Is that something you've been aware of? Is that something you kind of hope to do by playing gigs in the UK?
Yeah, I think part of that is that they play rock bands on the radio over there and on sports highlights shows apparently too, but they don't. It's hard to get played on the radio here. It's mostly like pop and hip hop and stuff. But didn't the Strokes get big in the UK? Brown's a big Strokes fan, so I defer to him. But they were bigger in the UK first too, right?
Yeah, they like went to the UK and did a tour, and when they came back, that's when like the label bidding war happened for them, like because they got so massive in the UK, and Rough Trade Records, and I guess it was Jeff Travis at the time. Is that his name?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they like Rough Trade was the first label to sign the Strokes, and obviously that's like their first big tour outside of the US happened there. And after they came back from that tour, there was like a bidding war, and then RCA eventually won out. I don't know what the terms were, but I imagine they were favorable.
Let's talk more about the Libertines. I have some questions for you.
Go on then, yeah.
So I was a huge fan. I think, Brohan, were you a big Libertines fan too?
Up the Bracket, yeah. That album was...
You didn't like the next one?
I didn't really listen. Well, I don't know what even is on that next one.
The self-titled one?
What's on that self-titled? I don't know it as well.
Can't Stand Me Now is the big hit off that album, I think.
Likely Lads.
Yeah, I know those songs. I mean, I was super, super into Up the Bracket. And then I don't know, they weren't together that much longer after that self-titled, right? Like,
well, yeah, they weren't even together when that came out, I don't think.
Do you guys, what's the UK response to their last record, the one that came out like 3 years ago?
I don't know. There's been a big thing in the UK about it being labelled as landfill indie. Like,
yeah, I've heard this too.
So it almost doesn't get talked about in a serious way now when some of the bands release new albums. But I'm not sure how, like, critically how it was received. But
I thought it had some okay songs, but they got that, like, I don't know his name, but the guy who like worked with Ed Sheeran and stuff to produce it.
All right.
And so as a result, like, it has like gang vocals, like really reverbed out gang vocals, and it's like the production is so not right for it. Whereas like the sound of those first two records is pretty, like, it's pretty lo-fi when you go back and listen to it. No, I shouldn't say lo-fi. Mainly the performances are so sloppy, and like sometimes like the mic's cutting in and out because they're probably like not on top of it and stumbling around vocal booth.
Yeah. I know the first album was recorded pretty live, I think, and maybe the same for the second. And Mick Jones from The Clash produced it, I think.
How hands-on do you think that guy was?
Mick Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of Alan McGee.
Yeah, of course.
We had him on here, and he was saying for that second album, it got to the point where he had to hire security guards to keep Pete and Carl apart.
Wait, were they on Creation or something?
No, it's weird. Like, well, Alan McGee's like dipped his hand in everything. He was record label owner, and then he was manager for a bit, and he kind of got convinced to manage the Libertines. Some people thought he was the only person that could handle it.
Why? Because he was around Oasis and stuff?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And people thought he had the right character to handle it. And he says he was quite reluctant, but because everyone kept telling him to do it, he did it. So yeah, he went in there, and basically, I think by the sounds of it, he strung the second album together and made it happen. But he said he had to hire security guards to keep Pete and Carl apart. So
that's funny.
And that Pete only spent about, say they were recording for 3 months, Pete ended up spending about 13 days in the studio or something.
That's funny, man. They're a weird band, I think. I also was like hearing rumors or read a story or something that like they were assembled or something, almost like a boy band. Like they had Carl and Pete, and then like the label like found them a bass player and a drummer.
I think that definitely happened with the drummer. But I think
okay.
I've seen interviews where basically I think they had a manager who became a bit disinterested, and then the Strokes kicked off, and then suddenly they were very interested because they thought they were, the most similar band that the UK had. And yeah, I think the manager said, "Oh, no, a drummer." But I think they already had a bassist at that point. But I think the Leather Jackets came out and they made a real go for it at that point, I think.
What did they call those? Do you remember the other jackets they used to wear? They wear it on like the Greatest Hits, the cover of the Greatest Hits or something.
The military jacket. Is it the Chelsea Pensioners jacket?
Yeah. My friend, we were super into that band, and my friend bought online like one of those jackets. Not like a vintage one or anything, but like some new version of it that they make. And I remember this is in like 2007 probably. And I remember him wearing, or not wearing it, one particular night at a party, but seeing a girl that he liked wearing a jacket like that and approaching her and saying like, "I have that same jacket," and her just like looking at his jean jacket or whatever, being like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's at home." And she didn't believe him, but I knew the truth that he did have that jacket at home. But it's a weird style choice. Like Coldplay started wearing jackets like that for like Viva La Vida, sort of.
All right.
Yeah, I think the Jonas Brothers also adopted those jackets for a while, for a little bit. It became a weird thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the styles became very mainstream in the end, didn't they? Like the, I guess it's like skinny jeans and everything.
Sgt. Pepper's jacket, too.
Yeah. I mean, Julian Casablancas used to wear one as well, didn't he? Remember?
Well, he started he wore it in the MTV $2 bill performance that they did, and that was the beginning, I think.
Yeah, I remember buying one because of him, basically, yeah.
Wait, you had one of those jackets?
I had one of the Julian Casablancas ones. I wasn't brave enough for the red one.
But you just like wear that, walk like going to school?
Oh, nah. I think I wore it literally on about 1 or 2 nights out.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to pull off if you're not like on stage.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't do it, no. So I guess in terms of songwriting, did you say you started writing these songs like 10 years ago?
No, probably like 2017 is when we started recording Football Money. So yeah, 2016 to 2017.
Right.
For that record, yeah.
And had you been in bands previously?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've been in loads of different bands and stuff, and then, yeah, this is just the most recent one. You know how but I don't know who said it, but maybe it's like Seinfeld. It's like when you turn 30, like you can't make any new friends. It's like whoever you're with, these are the people for the rest of your life. And it's kind of like that for this band, I think. Basically turned 30 and it's like, well, I guess this is the band that we'll be jamming with more in the future from now on.
So how long have you been together?
Yeah, since like 2016 or so.
Right. And is this like the furthest you've come in a band kind of thing? Or have you been on a label before or anything like that?
No, never really pursued it as far as this, in terms of like, you know, going to the UK and playing and things like that. And like we just signed to Sub Pop for this new record that's coming out next year, and we definitely never had a US label in any other bands or anything like that, so it's exciting for us.
Oh, cool. Yeah, was that quite a big deal? Obviously, a lot of history with Sub Pop.
Yeah, they're one of the labels when you think about like independent US labels with, you know, rock music especially.
Yeah. Can you just give me 30 seconds? I just need to go do something quickly. Sorry.
I'm going to take a minute too.
Do you want me just to talk while you guys are going?
I'm sure he'll edit it out, but it would be funny. It'd be funny if you sent some kind of secret message. I'll be back in 1 sec.
I'll be here. Just holding it down, just like I do the band, you know. Hold it down, keep everyone together, keep it all together. I actually play all the instruments and sing on the record. The other guys are just hired guns that I hired.
All right.
Build around myself. Oh, sorry.
Definitely keeping that in. Yeah, I guess I wanted to ask you about the album, obviously, Football Money. And I know that's a bit behind you now, but is there a theme to that album, would you say? Is there something that kind of runs through all the songs?
I think a lot of that stuff is not planned. But there is going to be through lines. You know, if you get the same guy to write 10 or 11 different songs in the same period, he's going to touch on similar themes and things like that. I kind of prefer other people to make those conclusions, right? Like it's hard for me to describe the overall arc of things. But people have talked about different sort of through lines and themes in the past with that record. But a lot of that stuff, like I said, is not intentional. It just kind of comes out, right? It's like, it's almost like, whether or not you're conscious of what kind of clothes you're wearing, you're still going to have your own particular style, right? Just based on the fact that you're the one doing it. So I don't think there's any kind of like one big concept or anything like that.
Well, actually, I was just on Genius, and they beg to differ. So,
man, does Genius have our lyrics up yet?
Yeah, they do. I'm looking at it right now.
Are they correct?
The one I'm looking at is correct.
What song? Because I looked at Genius like a year ago, or not a year ago, probably in the winter. And they were like fan submitted. I use the word fan in quotes, by the way. Somebody submitted the lyrics to the record on genius.com, and they were so wrong, and which is stupid because when you buy the record, like it comes with the lyrics. We put the lyrics out there.
Right. They're available.
And so then I made an account to try to fix them because it was pissing me off, like some of the lyrics that they thought I was saying, which were just wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then Genius wouldn't accept my contributions. Like I hadn't earned enough cred on the website, right? Like the more you edit and the more that you annotate, I guess you get more, I don't know, star power or something. And because I was a new user, like they didn't take my thing seriously. So then somebody on Twitter recently, a guy from Ireland, messaged us and said like, hey, your lyrics are all wrong on Genius. If you send me a document, I'll fix them for you. And I did. So I don't know if he ever fixed them or not.
I mean, yeah, they look right. Like some of the things are kind of funny. Like on Leslie, it says like, it has the ahas in there, like aha Leslie.
That's funny.
Which is funny.
They're there for all the songs though?
Yeah, all the lyrics are here for all
he must have done it.
Yeah, I think they're all here.
Cheers to whoever that was. I can't remember your name, but thank you.
Have you played in Dublin?
No, we want to go, but
we were supposed to. We were supposed to in May, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were supposed to play a festival there. I don't remember the name of it, but maybe next year or whenever that is available to us, we'll do it.
Yeah, were you booked into a lot of festivals over here?
Yeah, we had more UK dates and like I said, Glasgow, I think, and Ireland, and I think there was like a show in Denmark or something.
All right. So was that like a headline tour as opposed to supporting other people?
Oh, I don't know about that. I think like when you're a new band like us and you're booking a tour in another country, you're just kind of taking what you can get, right? Like if there's an opportunity to open for a band who's going to draw, you take it. Yeah, like the last time we went, like we were headlining our own London show because I think we were pretty confident that, you know, our label and management knew enough people that we could fill the room kind of thing. But yeah, like in other venues across like Bristol and Manchester and stuff, we were supporting other groups.
Can you remember where you played in London, out of interest?
It was in a basement of a pub.
All right, just because I used to live there for like
the waiting room. It's in Stoke Newington, I think.
Oh, really? I literally lived in Stoke Newington. Actually, I saw that on your gig list, actually, and I thought that would have been great if I actually lived in London still. I was literally around the corner from me, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a great show. That's a good sounding room, too, for being like a kind of a cube in the basement.
And yeah, just going back to the songwriting. So what's the songwriting process like? Like, am I right in thinking you write all the songs, Jeremy, or how does it work?
Yeah, for the most part. I write all the lyrics anyway, but, you know, other people write chord progressions and riffs and everything like that. And we just get together and try to make it work into something interesting.
I suppose I kind of asked it before, and it is a bit of a bland question, but who would you say your main influences were?
Well, like I was kind of saying, I don't know. I can tell you groups that I was listening to when we were making the record, but it's tough to say whether they are direct influences or not, you know? Unless you're one of those groups who can say like, oh, we were really trying to do like a Clash sounding song, or we were really trying to do, you know, whoever sounding song, where we don't really do that for the most part. But so I can tell you, I remember, I don't know, what were we listening to? Probably like the Strokes all the time and Rolling Stones and I don't know, usual like famous rock groups. Yeah. Nothing crazy that's going to blow your mind. We had played, I'm just trying to put myself in that headspace from a couple of years ago. I remember we were into that Australian band Royal Headache a lot. Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of different groups that we were listening to around that time. I
mean, when I was listening to it, there's a lot you could say in terms of comparisons, but definitely got like a Pavement vibe. Would you say that was a fair shout?
Yeah, my voice gets compared and always has gotten compared to them. But musically, I think we're pretty different, and we definitely never even talk about that band like in jam practice or anything like that. But yeah, that's fair. We get that a lot.
we try and talk about on the podcast is like how things have changed from that noughties period. Like a lot of bands talk about how, you know, record labels were throwing money at bands at that point, trying to find the new Strokes, basically. How have you guys found it in terms of, you know, finding a record label and getting your music out there? I mean, you said you've got a label and management, so do you think you have pretty much the same setup as any band did back in the day?
I don't know. I assume not. I mean, we do have management and a label now, which is fantastic. But I assume that, you know, 15 years ago it was pretty different. I can't say from experience, but I can tell. I don't know for sure. It's even hard right now to say like what's the experience been like post-pandemic. Right? Like 15 years ago, I don't know, but even like 15 months ago was probably pretty different.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But I guess a lot of bands say now, like talk to bands like the Cribs who say, you know, everything's got to be a lot more DIY now.
Yeah, well, we had to pay for and then make our first record. Like we did it in a proper studio and stuff, but it was basically without anyone's help. And then once that was made, we shopped it around, and then we got signed by a record label based in Vancouver, Canada, called Mint Records. And they put out the first album, and they're fantastic. And then, for this second record, we were lucky enough that Sub Pop heard the first record, liked it, and wanted to work with us. Yeah, so I don't know if that's how it used to work or anything, but...
So you basically paid for the recording of football money, did it all yourselves, and then you got a record company to kind of release it from there?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right, yeah, because I don't think we've spoke to any bands where they've had to do that. So, I mean, yeah, I know what you're saying, like you can't really compare it because you don't know, but yeah, a lot of bands think it's probably harder now to succeed in terms of, you know, in terms of monetizing things as well. Like a lot of bands back in the day used to get advances on deals and everything. But you've obviously worked hard to get to the point where a label would take you on. Or have the songs spoke for themselves, do you think?
Well, I can just tell you with both record labels that we worked with, they heard the record and they liked it enough or were convinced by it enough to put it out. I mean, we still have jobs, right? Like, we're not like professional musicians by any standard. So I probably would be willing to bet that if you were in our position in like 2007 and you were on a cool label putting out your second record, you probably wouldn't be still working a job, I'm guessing. Brohan, I don't know. Does that make sense? Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know what's happening now. Like in terms of, I can't imagine like starting a band like now, especially. I don't know what's going on because obviously no one can tour or play shows, and I don't know how well streaming and stuff does. But
yeah, I can't see I can't see a way out of this.
Yeah, it's weird to think about. I mean, we would love to get back on tour as quickly as possible, but who knows when that's going to be allowed or possible.
Yeah. But yeah, if this was like 2006, I feel like we probably would have gotten more money from labels and stuff. But I don't know, I'm happy where we're at.
Yeah. So you kind of like, I don't know, obviously you make it work in terms of working and touring kind of thing.
Yeah, we don't tour a lot. Just being in Canada, like it's a little difficult. It's not like in the UK where you can just drive an hour and there's another city of like, 2 million people.
Yeah.
Whereas here, you drive like 7 hours just to get to the next city, and it's not like that's only one of 10 different cities you can play. It's pretty much like the next city, and that's it.
And like you've talked about, obviously, the shows that you had lined up in Europe, is that something that management sort out, obviously?
Yeah, people take pretty good care of us in terms of planning and booking things and doing the things that we don't want to do that's not writing songs and playing music.
With that in mind, in terms of still having to work and stuff, like what are your ultimate ambitions for the band? Would it be to become full-time musicians.
Yeah, man, I would love to not. I would love if I didn't have to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
What do you call the big stadium in London? The O2? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Oh, Wembley. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Is Wembley the same thing as that?
No, Wembley's like miles bigger. It's like a big soccer stadium, 80,000, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did you hear the song that, the band ELO, Jeff Lynne?
Yeah.
Did you hear the song they put out this year? It's like it's a new song, new ELO song. Sounds great, by the way. The whole song is written about the time they played Wembley like last year. And it's like all of our fans were there under one roof, or I guess there's no roof, but in one space, and about how happy he was that he got to play Wembley.
All right.
Have you heard this, Brohan?
No, I haven't heard that one yet.
Okay, let me find it. I gotta look this up. It's the funniest thing.
Like it's just like a song reminiscing about having massive shows.
Yes. No, one specific show that he played in like 2018.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, does it sound like he's like massively like backslapping himself, or?
I mean, one might think that. However, he seems really happy about it. So like, it's hard to fault him. Like, oh yeah, it's called Time of Our Life. Wait. Okay, I'm going to read you a couple lyrics. Went down to London town to play our music at the football ground. I can't believe this is going down, I said to my friend Phil. 60,000 rocking out and singing so loud I had to shout. And best of all, they seemed so happy just being there. And then the chorus is, oh, what a time we had that night. We had the time of our life. And it keeps going. Like, it gets so specific about when we played Telephone Line, how happy they were and stuff. Anyway, it's pretty funny. But if I ever, to answer your question about career aspirations, if I ever get to play Wembley, I probably won't write a song about it.
So you released a song in September, last month, was it?
That's right.
Called Undecided Voters. Would you describe that as a political commentary or not really?
I want to say no, but I think like it was written like over a year ago.
Right.
And it literally just happened to be that our new record's coming out next year, and this is the first single, so it just made sense to make that the song, right? Because of what's going on in the United States at this time. But it was in no way written about the election in the United States. It's just sort of a happy coincidence that it's coming out at that time.
Fair enough. Yeah, we've been getting quite involved in it. Like, just been watching a documentary called The Trump Show. What's it like? I mean, obviously you're in Canada, aren't you? Is it something you keep a close eye on, obviously?
I don't know about you, Brohan, but I try my hardest to avoid it just because it's always bad news. There's not really good news coming to that thing unless it's like November 3rd or whenever the election is, or 8th or something. And if he loses, but... So anything leading up until that, I feel like it's just bad news.
Yeah, it's just a lot of conjecture as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to avoid that stuff, but I'm certainly not watching any documentaries. I don't fault you for doing it, but it's just like, it's bad vibes, man.
And then you've talked about the second album. Has your sound moved on? Like, how would you say it's any different to the first?
I haven't really talked about it yet. I don't think it's particularly different than the first. We actually like referenced the first record a bunch, like in terms of the sound we wanted to get and stuff like that. We were even talking about like the first two Strokes records, about how they stand apart from the rest of their discography because they nailed their sound on the first record and then they just kind of repeated it on the second. And at the time, people were annoyed by that. But looking back, it's like, no, they should have just kept doing that.
Yeah, I think. In terms of their best records, I think the first two are tied for first place.
I remember Room on Fire, like critically, got a lot of like negative press, but I never understood that because it's like as good as the first. I think maybe it's because it doesn't get overplayed as much, but I always thought it's definitely at least as good as the first album.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, it sounds a lot like the first one, but the first one is incredible, and I don't really see the problem. um,
Yeah.
and I think there is some like variance in terms of just like, they discovered that like 1251 guitar tone, and they use that on like, the end is no end, and like they have some, they're switching things up a bit. The drumming is pretty different. There's like cutouts and stuff which there aren't on the first record. They're switching it up. I think that record is incredible. It might be my favorite Strokes record.
Yeah, I think if I was gonna sit down and listen to a Strokes album, it probably would be that one.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at the songs that weren't singles on that, and it's like there's so many songs that could have been singles on that record.
Yeah. What do you make of the new album?
I really enjoy Julian Casablancas' voice, and anytime I could listen to him like sing the phone book kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just because I really like listening to him sing, and so I'm always interested to hear what he's doing and stuff like that. So I still follow the Strokes pretty rigorously.
Yeah.
So I listen to it, and I there's like I do get like a level of enjoyment from it. I think at this point it's like if you're still listening and following the Strokes, like you're accepting that you're being taken on this like Julian Casablancas musical journey. And you're not necessarily looking for him to recreate the early stuff.
Yeah, especially with the Void stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's been very different, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just sort of, if you sort of embrace that, you're being taken on this sort of musical...
Same musical journey
odyssey.
Again.
I said Odyssey this time. If you sort of embrace the Odyssey and like that, that I think I don't want to say how he feels, but I feel like it feels to me as a listener that he's like, he doesn't want to recreate that early stuff anymore. And he's ready to do like, try new things and experiment. And if you're kind of willing to do that and go with him on that
musical journey.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's still pretty enjoyable and like fun to listen to, but I think it's all depends on the way you're looking at it.
You know what's wild? I'm just thinking about now. It's like the first Strokes record is like 20 years old, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's the equivalent of being like in the year 2000 and like still hoping the Smiths get back together and make good records. The time difference is so wild, man.
Yeah, because I mean, when we were, like 2006, the idea of the Smiths just seems so long ago. Whereas the idea of the Strokes now doesn't seem 20 years ago, really. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's nuts.
They still play. Like I saw the Strokes last summer. Yeah.
Yeah, it was last summer. I was there
in Toronto, and it was incredible. Like they still sound amazing, and
they look great too.
Yeah, they look great. They sound great. I don't know. It was like an amazing show.
And we've talked to bands who, like when they were starting out, they get a leg up from these bands. Like the Libertines were known for helping out smaller bands. Just wondered if you'd had any feedback from not so much bigger bands, but bands that you were into, or you've had any kind of love from other bands in that way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Mostly Canadian groups. I don't know if you would know, but trying to think. UK. Thurston Moore came to our London show. He lives in London. So I can't really say Sonic Youth helped us out or anything, but he was there.
Did he come and like have a chat with you and stuff?
Yeah. He's friends with our manager, so it wasn't totally organic, but it happened, and he seemed into it. But mostly Canadian groups, like, do you know Sloan?
I don't think so.
Yeah, or like Thrush Hermit. Like they're more like, from the previous generation, like early 2000s and stuff like that in Canada. And those people like that have been super supportive and nice to us. But trying to think if there's anyone that you would know. Probably not, to be honest. It's a pretty niche Canadian thing for the most part. But
you've played shows with those guys, have you?
Yeah. Like we played the Thrush Hermit reunion tour, and we've played with Chris Murphy from Sloan's new band, stuff like that. Yeah, and that's pretty cool for us anyway.
To ask as well, like we ask bands about when, you know, they go from being a band that's not signed to then getting signed and then going into the second album like you guys are. And some of them have said like the pressure changed, where there's kind of a pressure to be more commercially successful. And I guess you guys being on Sub Pop is obviously still like an indie label. Have you felt any pressure in terms of songwriting, or has your songwriting process stayed the same?
Well, personally, I can say that like they didn't have any expectations. I'm sure they had expectations amongst themselves, but they didn't communicate anything to us about like we need a radio hit or we need something that we can sell to somebody or anything like that. They totally let us do our own thing. So we haven't had any pressure to be more commercial or anything like that. It's more just personally knowing that the stakes are higher, that, you know, you might not get this opportunity again to put out a record on a really cool label. So you want to make sure that you're doing something that you're not going to regret. Honestly, I think. Yeah,
so you kind of just got to embrace that kind of opportunity, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But no, there's been no pressure or anything from anybody, really. Aside from, like, you know, obviously there's deadlines that people have to hit in order to get the record out on time and things like that. But no one has ever interfered in any of our artistic decisions or creative choices or anything like that.
How has the pandemic affected everything? Obviously, it's stopped you playing shows, but how has it affected the band in general, really?
Well, we made the whole new record during the pandemic.
Oh, right,
okay. We had probably 10 songs ready to record, and we thought that was going to be the second record. And then because of the lockdown, we were able to write 3 more, and so now there's more songs on the new record. So I don't know, it's kind of been good for that, and like, you know, it for creative reasons, but it's been horrible for others. And even just logistically, like being in the studio and wearing a mask, and you can't have too many people in the same room and stuff like that is a nightmare.
We ask everyone that comes on, like, is there a song or album that makes you most nostalgic about that noughties period?
I can think of a lot of things, man. Like, I can think of, like, I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of this stuff in a long time, right? Like, yeah. But I remember, like, I specifically remember listening to the Kaiser Chiefs at one point, being into that song, I Predict a Riot. And hearing that song recently and being like, whoa, totally forgot about this. I've been listening to, like, some point during the pandemic, somebody sent me a video. I think it was Mike, our bass player, actually was like, hey, check out this Futurehead song. It's still wicked. And I was listening to the Futurehead's first record for a minute.
Oh, yeah, we had them on, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great, man. That first Futurehead's record. I don't know any of their other stuff, but that first one holds up. If it came out now, I think people would be into it.
Yeah, that was it was massive when it came out, yeah.
Was it over there? I don't even think it was that big here.
It wasn't that big, did you say?
I don't think so, bro. And do you remember it being big here?
Not in general. I mean, it was big with our, like, friend group, I think. But yeah, in terms of the general population, I don't know how much attention it got. No.
I was just talking to my girlfriend about how, like, the biggest band in East Coast Canada, where we're from around that time, was like Franz Ferdinand. Of all these bands, they were.
Yeah, I was just going to mention
they were massive.
The likes of the Futureheads and Franz Ferdinand really kind of crossed over into the mainstream, I think.
Well, for us, like, everyone knew Franz Ferdinand, but I feel like only one in, I don't know, like, there was probably only like 3 kids at my high school who would have known who the Futureheads were.
Yeah, fair enough. I was watching this mad video of Franz Ferdinand, actually, where they played the NME Awards, but it's like this medley with, who was in it? He was like the Black Eyed Peas. and some other, like, I don't know, Bruno Mars or someone. Maybe it's a bit before Bruno Mars, but yeah, it's mad. They played like this medley of songs. So yeah, they must have been pretty big over there.
Oh, they were huge. I remember, like, I specifically remember reading this Rolling Stone article, like right before Kanye put out 808s, and he was saying, like, he talked to Alex from Franz Ferdinand about, like, singing styles and stuff. Like, he was asking him for, like, vocal advice on, like, how to become a better singer and stuff. And thinking about that now is pretty nuts, right? Like, I also remember Snoop Dogg being into Franz Ferdinand.
Really?
Saying that he wanted to work with the guys who made that Take Me Out song. Like, it was huge, man. They were way bigger over here than most of the UK bands that we've been talking about.
I remember a story about Arctic Monkeys when they first came out. Like, Puff Daddy was really into them.
That's so funny.
And he used to go to the shows in America and stuff, which seemed just mental, yeah.
Yeah, that's really weird. I'm so into that newest Arctic Monkeys record, by the way.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's incredible. It's probably my favorite record of, like, the last few years that's come out. Listen to it all the time. And, like, I can't stomach any of their other records, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I liked them when I was younger, like when they came out and stuff. Whenever the first one came out, I liked it at the time, right? What is that, like 2006 or something?
Yeah.
I liked that one. Second one was okay when it came out, and then they fell off the radar completely for me until this new one came out, and I was like, maybe I'll listen to it. And man, I'm still listening to it all the time.
Yeah, I think because he changed his songwriting style a bit. I think he wrote all that album on the piano, maybe.
Yeah, and just like his lyrics got so much different and better. Like, he's a great lyricist on the new record. Like, the songs are so funny all the time. And, like, we're a band that, like, we try to be funny with our lyrics too. The new record especially, there's, like, a lot of humor in it. And I don't know, there's not that many other groups in the mainstream like they are that do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean, like on the title track of the album, where there's a part of the lyrics where he's just talking as if he's the hotel receptionist.
Yeah, Mark speaking.
Yeah.
There's so much funny stuff, man.
That's one of the best songs I've ever done, that, I think, definitely. The
first line of the album is, I just wanted to be one of the Strokes, now look at the mess I'm in. Like, that's great.
Yeah, there's rumours they're back in the studio, so it should be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I hope they keep doing more interesting stuff like this and don't start going, like, bluesy rock again. But
yeah, I'd love to know what Alex Turner makes of it all, like, whether he must be just writing for himself now, surely. I don't know.
And that's also why it's good, I think.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Obviously, like, that whole scene was very defined in the UK, and people look back on it as, like, a real, like, defined period of music. Is that the same in Canada, or do you just remember bands that you're into rather than thinking, you know, that was like a real era of guitar bands?
Well, we had our own thing going on over here, right? So, like, around that same time is when over here there's like a Canadian indie thing where it would have been like the New Pornographers, Wolf Parade, Arcade Fire, you know, Nico Case, Unicorns, Sunset Rubdown, Destroyer. Yeah, lots of great bands at the same time were coming out here. The music is definitely different, like, than what was happening in the UK. But it was around the same time, I think. Does that add up? I think so.
Yes, it was like a good time for guitar bands over there as well, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't even so much guitar bands. They were all trying to do like more of like an orchestral thing, I think. Like Broken Social Scene and...
yeah, they were good.
Lots of bands around that same time had their own defined sound, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I did put in a funny story, but I guess... Yeah, that's just a bit of a random one. If you did
No, I got stories.
Oh, excellent.
I have two, and then Brohan, you have one maybe or two.
Excellent.
Neither of them happened to me because we're in Canada, and I would have been like 16 years old at this time. But I have this friend of mine from Manchester, and he recently told me that when he was like 15 or 16, his friend said to him, "Hey man, do you want to come hang out at the Charlatans jam space?"
I read his book. Was it Tim Burgess?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read his book. It was good.
This isn't Tim, by the way. This story is about the other guitar player or something.
Oh,
maybe I shouldn't be telling this, to be honest. Anyway, my friend went to their jam space, and he was like not into the Charlatans, but he was like, "I'll go and I'll see what they're up to." And when he got there, it was like, yeah, they're working on their new record. Like, they're writing the songs. Like, let's come get a look and see what they're up to. And their guitar player was like sat in front of the record player and listening to Northern Soul 45s and just like stealing all their riffs and speeding them up to write the new Charlatans record. Anyway, that was the one story I had that I thought was funny.
Yes.
And the guy got mad that they were there.
That didn't make the novel or the biography.
Yeah, I don't think it was Tim, and I don't know. This is all allegedly, but I think that's pretty funny. I think he got mad. I think he was like, "Get out of here!" Like his songwriting secret exposed was just like ripping off old 45s.
Yeah, he does. Tim Burgess does a lot of. I don't know if you've seen them Twitter listening parties.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I followed along to the Franz Ferdinand one and the Pastels one too. I followed along to. They did. For their last record that they did one.
They'll probably do one for you guys. I think they're doing he's trying to do loads. But
is he?
It'd be quite cool, yeah.
Has he managed to monetize this yet?
He's got I don't know actually, he's got a website for it where search for any of the previous ones and you can see the tweets come up on the website as they would do during the album, like on a timed thing.
Oh, that's cool. Because I found that tricky because I didn't want to listen to the record. I just wanted to hear juicy little tidbits, like pop-up video, right?
Yeah. So that's what the website does. It kind of, the main people involved, it just shows their tweets coming up, tweet by tweet, which is pretty cool. I only really followed the Cribs one live, but that was really good.
What record was the Cribs one?
They did that one, but the one I listened to was the New Fellas. The
is that the one Edwin Collins produced?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So he was commentating on it as well.
I was into that record big time. That was cool.
Did you say, Brohan, did you have a funny story?
Somebody we work with had a libertine story. Do you remember this, Brohan?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to say his name, but...
Yeah, in London, yeah. He told us a funny libertine story where, maybe we won't say his name, but we were drinking with him in the pub in London after our show, and we were kind of, celebrating a good show, and he was telling us... He's like, oh, I wouldn't remember the venue name or anything, but he told it's like a very small venue, apparently. He's like, oh, I saw the Libertines back in the day, like a 200 capacity venue or whatever. And he said he was standing up front and he had a cold beer, like a bottle of beer, and he set it down on top of Pete Doherty's amp, on top of the amplifier. And he said a girl came by and just took a huge swipe and knocked it off the amp and smashed on the ground. She's like, "Don't do that!" And yelled at him. And he was like, "Oh my god!" And he looked up, and it was Kate Moss. He had knocked the beer off his amp, and he was just like, "Oh my god!" And then she's like, "Oh, sorry about that." And she went and bought him another beer. So his story is that Kate Moss bought him a beer.
That is a good story, to be fair.
Yeah, not every day Kate Moss will buy you a beer.
Give me more, bro.